Spirit Path is about ghosts and the undead gathering human bones and bringing them to graves to hopefully return to the living. And it's coming to Kickstarter today. Hi, welcome to another video from Wildest. My name's Jay. I play board games from Asia and share what I find with all of you. Today we are shooting in the cemetery because we're here to talk about Spirit Path. Hey, before we get to the video, I just want to say my name's Jay. I'm Jay's editor. And editing these videos is a lot of work. So if you want to help me, help Jay, help you, please consider liking, subscribing, and joining the Patreon, which helps keep Cardboard East possible. If you like learning about games from Asia, follow for more. Welcome to Spirit Path, the goal of which is to collect the most bones, so therefore your spirit can become and enter the realm of the living once again. Now here on the board is the stock here, and I'll get into this in just a little bit, but the most important part is that you are playing a spirit and you're going around to these different gravestones to pick up bones and trading them in left and right, and you'll be walking around the cemetery constantly doing these transactions. This is the rondel, and each of the gravestones is where you'll be taking these actions. And you'll be picking up these spirit pawns along the way and then dropping them off, taking the actions at the gravestones. So let's talk about the gravestones really quickly. There are three kinds. There's morning, evening, and then there is nighttime. Now, all these gravestones will do certain things. There'll be step one is to place a pawn here. Step two will be produce more spirits, and you'll get them from the associated spirit stock. And then here is the action. And the different actions that you can do are you could trade spirit pawns for money. You can, let's see here, you could trade coins for more cards, and the cards would be more gravestones. And then later on in the evening, you can see that they get stronger. So you get 3 money per flame that you do. And then even at the nighttime, you can eventually trade stuff in for points. And these bones here are points because you're fighting over points. So the spirits for points or cards for points. And even cards for lots of money, because money will be very important throughout the course of the game. Players will also draft these player boards. Now here's your player board here. Now you can upgrade your board, so you can place these by placing these tiles here from level 0 where you start off with to level 1 and even to level 2. And each character begins with a level 1. Depending on what color you are, you'll start off with a certain thing. But I'll get into this in a little bit because we're getting ahead of ourselves, because you understand this until you understand the main mechanics. So how does your turn look? Well, on your turn, let's say blue wants to move here. Now, depending on how far they can move, they can look here on their board here, and you can see that they can move up to 4 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4. And if they move 1 space, they can carry up to 3 spirit pawns. If they move 2 spaces and carry up to 2, 3 spaces 1, and then if they move 4, they can, but they can't carry any spirit pawns with them. So I want to move 2, so I'm going to be able to take these 2 spirit pawns with me here, and here I am at this base. Then I can activate the tombstone. So I will take one of my offering pawns here, which begin off your player board, which is really important. And then you'll take this, add it here to the top, and then you'll activate this here. So it produces 1 red, and I'll take this from the red board from top to bottom and left to right. So I'll take this here. And then if you see here, it says 1 flame up to 2 times can turn into money. Well, how much money do I get? Well, that's going to be determined from the board over here. So you see this number is 2. So there are 2 here. I can return 2. So 2, 4. I'll get $4. So I just take the $4 from here and then just add it to my player board, or off to the side of my player board. And that is my turn. So essentially you're going to do 1, 2, and then 3. And they'll go to the next pair. Let's say yellow. Yellow wants to move, has a blue spawn, so they're going to move here. So 1, 2, and they'll carry 1 flame with them. And then before they can take their gravestone action, they're going to take what's called a temple action. And a lot of different things are going to happen in this temple action. Now up here we could see the temple board a little more closely. And please keep a note that this is all a prototype, that nothing here is finalized. Now there is a little piece here that is missing, and that's going to be the round tile. And you can see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4 rounds. For a 1, 2, 3 player game, you'll play 3 rounds, and then for the 4 player game, you'll have 4 rounds to play. But let's take the look at the round 1, and we're going to place this here. So as soon as you pass, you're going to have 2 choices. You either 1, take one of these little cat tokens here, and they're kept off to the side of the temple board, and you can place it here, and then you'll immediately get $5. Easy peasy, not a problem. The other thing that you can do is that you can put 1, 2, 3 tokens here, and these will be your little grave offerings, and you'll place them here onto the board like so. Now, once you do that, depending on how many you place, if you want to put 1, it'll be $4, 2, $9, 3, $14. And it's going to be really important to put these here, and I'll explain in just a second. And then after you do that, you'll choose between getting 5 points or drawing a card. Now, when you draw a card, you can either draw the evening cards or the night cards. And we'll talk more about why you want to get that. But this is a reminder here that if you play an evening card, you'll get 20 points. You play a nighttime card, you'll get 30 points. So you definitely want to place these grave cards, because that is one way to get a lot of points in this game. Now, as soon as you're done with your temple action, you can continue on with your grave action. But let's go ahead and jump ahead and finish this up. So once this immediately gets filled, that is the end of the round. And then you're going to count up all the pieces here. And this is where it becomes a little bit more of like area control. So imagine if this were filled out and blue had the most of these on here. Well, then for each one that's on here, he would get 4 points. And let's say yellow got second place. That means each of yellows will get 2 points. So you definitely want to rack up the amount of pieces that are on here, but not too much. And we'll get into that in just a little bit. But as soon as a round ends, you'll wipe the board clean. And then you're going to replace this with the next one. And you can see here on round 2 that it is a little bit more expensive. And then when you jump all the way to round 3, you can see that it gets even more expensive. So placing 3 tokens here costs $22, but you also get a lot more points along the way. And this is probably the main way that you'll get the biggest burst of points in the game, with grave cards being second. Jumping ahead, let's say yellow moves to this tombstone, and then, oh no, there are already 2 offerings there. There's no place to put a third. What happens? Well, in that case, this will come out. This is 1, and these are enabled 1, 2, 3, 4, and these little ladles here. And then this ladle is going to push these out. Now, these are going to be returned to the players, but it's not going to go to their supply here. Instead, it's going to come here. And this is really important because these are 2 very different places. And I'll go into this in just a little bit. But moving forward, they'll place this here, meaning that no one else will be able to go here and take these actions. They could land there, but then they can't really take those actions, and it's essentially a dead spot. So essentially what's going to happen is that, well, maybe this 2 will come out, and then maybe this 3 will come out. And so there'll be more dead spots around the board. And this is going to be very important because this is one way that you can to block other players. But eventually this 4 is going to come out. And when this 4 comes out, let's say it just goes out to here, then it'll say out 1. And as soon as that happens, well, then this 1 is going to lift up. And so now players can re-enter that spot. So these little ladles will be there to kind of block certain places there, preventing people from going. Now, if you notice here, like you have 2 blue, 1 blue, 1 blue, 1 blue, and then you have 2 red. So imagine, if you will, that if you needed these red graves for whatever reason, and then they were both blocked, that could be really detrimental if you're having a red gravestone strategy. And this is one of the layers of the game that you'll have to think about. Well, the next thing that could happen is that maybe blue moves here. They will take their offering pawn, put it here. But before they do a production and before they do to step 3, which is the transaction, they can play a new grave card. Now up here you can see the price. This is 3 blue and $8. So then I will take my $8 here, return it back to the bank. And then I'll have 3 fire here. I can see these 3 spirit pawns. They go back to the stock. And I also am carrying one here on me. And then I'll place this simply on top. And now, as soon as I place this, I'll get 20 points because it's an evening card. But more importantly, you can see that the green graves tombs have gone from 2 to now 3. And counting these gravestones is going to be really, really important throughout the course of the game. So now let's talk a little bit about your player board. Now there are ways for you to upgrade your player board. One of the things you could do is you could upgrade your sandals or your movement. So here you can see that if you can carry 3, but you can only move 1 space. And then you can upgrade it to level 1. And level 1 is pretty much the same, except if you notice that now you can move up to 5. If you're just carrying 1 spirit with you, then you can move 3 or 4. And then you can move all the way to 5, but you can't be carrying anything. And you will tend to do that from time to time. And then eventually you can even upgrade this to level 2, letting you move 6, which is quite far. How do you upgrade this? Well, as I said before, that you'll have like these little offerings eventually here once you get pushed off by the ladle. And then you'll take this and not return it here, but remove it from the game completely. And then you'll permanently upgrade your character. Now, there are different ways that you could upgrade your character. You could upgrade your sandals. You could upgrade this, and this will help you carry spirit pawns with you. So that way, level 1 can carry 1, level 2 can carry 2. So that way, you can walk faster, and this will not hinder your movement here. So that way, it will give you a little bit more efficient. This one right here is probably the most important, is because now these numbers have changed. So if you notice here on the boards, it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, now you add 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So anytime you return to get money, instead of getting 2, you'll get 3. If you return money here, instead of getting 4, well, now you get 5. And this also works for points as well. So this will increase your income, be it through money or points. And then you can even upgrade this to level 2, and then you'll be raking in more money and more points. Now, since we're on the subject of money, the earn here is also really important because if you upgrade to level 1, anytime you spend money, you'll spend $2 less. And that could either be for the temple board or placing a new gravestone. And if you upgrade this to level 2, well, then you spend $4 less every time you take a temple action or you place a new gravestone. So this all allows you to be a lot more efficient, but allows you to be efficient in a way of your choosing. But every time you upgrade, you're going to have to take a piece from here. And remember, it takes time for it to get to here. You have to remove this from the game. So as the course of the game goes, you're going to have fewer and fewer of these tokens, meaning that you have fewer and fewer tokens to place on the temple, fewer tokens to place on the gravestones. So you're going to have to be even more and more efficient with your turns. But the most important thing that you can upgrade, and it'll take 2 of these, not just 1, but 2. You remove 2 from the game completely, then you'll be able to go here and dig through these bones, and then you'll be able to select an urn. Now, the urns come in 3 different colors that match the gravestones from green, blue, and red. So green, blue, and red. And then they're all ranked 3, 4, and 5, as you see here. And the first time you go, you'll probably do 5 because that's obviously the highest and it's worth more points. Well, what does this mean exactly? You'll take this, put it back. This means that at the end of the game, you're going to look at the entire cemetery. And now you can see 1, 2, 3, 3 green, and then 3 times 5, that's 15 points for you. So keep that in mind because that'll dictate which graves you change and to what color. And then maybe you want to double down into these green strategies. So maybe you'll pick up the 4. So then way each green tombstone will be times 9. 4 plus 5 is 9. Please excuse my clumsiness here. So throughout the course of the game, you're going to be determining which strategy works best. Right now, blue is really good because it's times 5. So if you can go all in on blue, and then make sure your opponents don't change the blue tombstones to blue, and make sure that you're getting those blue urns. But it's tricky because you're going to have to lose 2 of these offering pawns, and they're completely moved from the game, meaning that you'll have fewer actions that you can take, and making your turns being incredibly tight. So you want to upgrade, but not too much. You want those earns, but not too many. And the game can end in a few ways. It could either end by going through all the rounds, typically 3 or 4 for a 4-player game, or depending on the player count, if there are an X amount of nighttime tombstones in the cemetery. So I believe in a 2, 3, 4-player game, if there are 3, 4, 5 night cards out, then the game will immediately end. Now, right now there are 9 tombstones, but there'll be more and more gravestones depending on the number of players. I believe in a 4-player game, you'll have like 11 gravestones to kind of calculate with. And that is how you enter the realm of the living once again after becoming a spirit. Playing this game, I realized why I like Sai Beppu's art so much. And it's the idea that she made, how do I say this? Incomplete art that looks complete. It's this idea that it's unfinished, but it's so honest and authentic and approachable that you just has this unique charm to it. I'm not saying that her art is bad or it's incomplete. I think it's absolutely stunning. But it's this sense of sketching and a little bit of imperfections that reach a perfection. And I think that her doing the art for this game is a match made in heaven, because the whole idea behind Spirit Path is your ghosts trying to transcend that boundary back into the living. And with that theme in mind, and you see these bones like on the game components themselves, that it makes you feel comfortable with an uncomfortable theme. It creates what other games strive to do, and that is this perfect vibe. And I think it does it in a very, very subtle way that I think most games don't do or don't do well enough. Times for some concerns. Now, there are a few little concerns I have with the game that I do want to mention to you. On the grave cards, there are the Roman numerals 2 and Roman numerals 3, but there's no number 1 Roman numeral. And I think they should have put that in the little circle on the card. So you see, you put your pawn there for 1, and then 2 and 3. Also, I feel it's really frustrating that there are Roman numerals at all. I don't see why they use the Chinese, Japanese 1, 2, and 3, because it's 1, same culture, and the 2, just as intuitive. If you can read the Roman numerals 1, 2, 3, then you could read Japanese 1, 2, 3. They're the exact same thing. Also, I gotta mention that this game, it's not Bubba proof. And Bubba, no offense to people named Bubba, but Bubba is like the slow person in your group who just kind of ruins the experience, not by, being mean, just by being a bad player. And that is that you can upgrade yourself so much so that you have no more pawns, and then you're kind of stuck there, not being able to do anything, maybe waiting for the end of the game. And I think that maybe there should have been guardrails. Now, granted, you're probably not going to play that way. And if you do, and if you are Bubba and you do play that way, then you definitely deserve to lose the game. But I think there should have been a few little guardrails there to prevent a player from playing that badly. Also, while the rondel is fascinating and interesting, and I'll get to that in just a little bit, I would like to have seen more outlandish grave powers. Like I would like for that second act and that third act to be more flamboyant. And because this is a game that's perfectly designed for everlasting development, that you can always create new grave cards that do more fantastical things and expand the game in a perfectly natural way, which is a great way to lead into the things that I like. Now, there's a lot to like in this game. If you like rondels, you should play this game. If you like games with crazy, weird, interesting themes, you should try this game. And this game has both. And it does something that I want all rondel games to do, and that is it allows players to change the rondel, because you are just eventually just going in a circle. But because you get to place the grave cards there, you're changing the action spaces that players can go to. And it's really fun to see the game evolve in that way. And I love games that have that emergent narrative of like an act 1, act 2, act 3. Act 1, like money is tight, it's really difficult, and you're slowly making your way around, trying to exchange things as best you can. And then Act 2, when more evening tombstones come into play, the actions get a lot more powerful, money becomes a little bit more available, and then you start spending them all on these temple actions, trying to build up that area majority there and score even more points. But that final act of just getting those night tombs out and scoring those big points from those cards is where the game just has this nice climactic end, because it just ramps up really quickly. And I find that it never doesn't overstay English. I know those words. It doesn't overstay its welcome. Now, this is a game with pick up and deliver. So if you don't like pick up and deliver, I don't know if this game could sway you in a way that you would like it. But my favorite thing about the game is this interesting choice that you have about having flexibility of every time you go to a space, you could take an action there. But you take those action pawns that you have and you get rid of them, toss them out of the game completely in order to upgrade your actions in the mid game. And it's hard because you think, okay, that's fine. I have them upgrade, 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 get to earn, score points, no big deal. And then you get to the second half of the game and you realize that, oh, I don't have any more pawns. I have like maybe one or two. This is going to be difficult. I'm going to have to land on a place and purposely choose not to trigger an action just so I can get to another place to trigger that action there. And it's really difficult. And it can get rather tight towards that second act and that especially the last act where you only have a few left because you're tossing two to get an earn and you definitely want to get those earns. And it's quite fun in the higher player counts when you're slowly deciding every time you buy an earn, you get to see them and you get to see which earns were taken. And then you can kind of look at the other players and kind of deduce which path each player is going for. And you can look at the cemetery and see, oh, there are a lot more red, green, and blue. How do you want to play that? So it's a really nice area control there that evolves into the game that keeps it feeling fresh every single time you play. Is it going to be a red game, red heavy? It's going to be green heavy, or it's going to be blue heavy, and you have to make that choice. But once one player makes that choice to get an earn, then they all start falling like dominoes, like boom, I get an earn, I get an earn, I get an earn. And then you just kind of locked in, and hopefully you have to manipulate the cemetery enough that you'll score the most points. Now, while those earns do score you points, they're not going to score you points as much as like playing those grave cards themselves. So there's this nice balance of playing the earns and then scoring the cards themselves, which are going to be big bursts of points for the game. Now, in terms of gameplay and strategy versus tactics, I think that there's a good balance here. Now, you could look at the game state early on in Act 1 and think to yourself, okay, this is going to be red. I'm going to probably do a red strategy. But then people start dropping these green cards, and that cemetery starts shifting to another color, and then you may have to pivot. This is a game that allows you to pivot and make those choices. So you're not locked into one strategy throughout the whole course of the game. And I do like games that have that little bit of extra flexibility there. But this is also a game that has those tactical decisions where you have to know at that right time when to pivot. When you pivot from red to blue, and then you go all in on blue. And you really have to make that wise choice. Also, developing your technology to fit your strategy is always interesting. But it does feel that sometimes the tech that lets you score more is obviously, I think, personally for me, the one that you go for, the one that you develop first, because that way you're making more money and you're making more points, which is driving the whole thing of the game. But at the same time, you can't carry as much and you can't go as far. And things are even more expensive because you spend so much time developing that. So I guess what I say is I like that you can approach this anyway, that your strategy is defined by you, the map and the rondel is defined by you, and the length of the game and how fast it is also defined by you. And I really like games that are player defined in that aspect. But I gotta say that this is a rondel game with pick up and deliver. And if you aren't big fans of those two mechanics, then you need to pause and think about if this game is for you or not. Just like I had to pause about whether or not I should film here or not. I think cemeteries get a bad rap because people are scared of them, but at the same time, I think they're absolutely gorgeous and beautiful and serene and sublime. Once again, my name's Jay. I play board games from Asia and share what I find with all of you. The sun is going down and I think it's time to leave. So I want to thank you so much for watching. Please look at the campaign because I definitely think it is worth exploring. And I'll see you in the next video.